to Brewed Podcast. I'm Bryce.
I'm Jen.
And I'm Adonis.
Hello, guys. Thank you so much for listening. By the way, I love you so much. We are 3 best friends that drink coffee, and we just kind of hang out and just talk a lot.
Yeah.
And it's perfect. And speaking of coffee, what are we drinking today?
We are drinking something that Jen brought with her. It's called the Passport Series West Java from Starbucks. It's you said it was a spring 2020 roast limited edition.
Yes.
Yeah.
Spring 2020 Passport Series.
Yeah,
I think you already said that, but yeah.
Medium roast. We're drinking it via a French press today. Generally speaking, I am not a fan of medium roast, especially from Starbucks. I tend to go for the darker roast. It's funny because when I started getting into coffee and different tastes and different roasts and stuff, I was like, oh, there's things outside of medium roast. So then I tried light roast, and I was like, oh, this is what I like. I really like light roast. And then as I started tasting more dark roast, I was like, oh, no. This is what
wrong all along.
Again. So I tend to gravitate now more strictly towards dark roast. But if I had to put them in order, it would definitely go dark, light, then medium. I really only drink medium if I'm trying something new or if that's all there is, because any coffee is better than no coffee.
I feel like we went on the same exact coffee journey, which is pretty great. And we also, the other different thing we're doing this time is Adonis got a food scale. Yes. So we were actually able to measure things out and try it in a very precise manner, as it's generally recommended. So we did it that way. So it should be, technically speaking, a perfect cup of coffee. So we're getting the right notes and measurements out of it. But yeah, same here. I'm not a huge fan of medium roast, generally speaking.
It's an herbaceous.
Jen's new favorite word of the day, everyone. She loves herbaceous. She looked it up. She's been pronouncing it and saying it in as many sentences as possible. It's pretty great.
But it did not taste that great.
What's your coffee standard?
So I'm gonna be the worst barista ever. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna get hate, but I don't really see, like, I feel the difference.
Okay.
I don't really taste the difference, but I mean, I can taste when one cup is really good and one cup is not that great. But it all kind of tastes the same to me. I feel like, do you think someone would have to be like really far into their coffee?
Yeah, Bryce and I were kind of talking about this earlier because we were looking up just some coffees online, and all of them have all these fancy flavors, and they say, oh, notes of like graham cracker and all this crazy stuff. And we were like, it'd be like, I would love to see a coffee expert like be able to take a sip of coffee and pull all of the flavor notes like out of that sip, you know, because I would love to see that, because a part of me is very skeptical as to whether there are actually those flavor notes in the coffee, you know. So I think that's what I'm excited about with this podcast and drinking, you know, different coffees on a regular basis with you guys, being able to start
help
to
learn. Our taste buds will kind of change and learn that, because it is interesting. Because I'm the same way. I am very skeptical about that too, and because I've never tasted notes like to this day. The most I get out of the coffee is knowing between what kind of roast it is. I can usually guess, and then also I guess acidity levels and whether it's a smooth cup or not a smooth cup. That's pretty much where it goes for me. I can't say I've ever been able to pull out all those little like chocolatey toffee notes, whatever it usually describes it as.
Another way people kind of taste coffee is they locate it in their mouth, like where you feel it, or where you I'm
where it like hits
so
your
bad
taste
at
buds,
this.
right?
Yeah, like where you feel it.
Yeah.
This one I felt at the back of my throat. What about you guys?
Oh, that's really interesting.
Take another sip.
I'll take a sip right now.
I know about this because Jen taught me about this a long time ago. She taught me how to like sip the coffee and like roll it in your mouth, and then you try to identify where you can taste it, and that should give you an idea on the roast, right? And then also maybe a little bit of the notes. Yeah, so for me, I definitely taste this one more to the center, towards the back of my tongue. Definitely not. It wasn't an upfront taste for me.
Yeah, definitely mid tongue. Yeah, it's definitely mid to back tongue. I actually got pretty much the same thing.
It seems like we have a couple of coffee experts that listen to the show, so I'm interested in hearing their feedback and hearing how stupid we sound with this stuff.
Yes. And speaking of that, I actually did have a buddy write in about a comment I had in the last episode where I talked about acidity levels or caffeine levels and like when you roast the caffeine out with dark roast to light roast, like maybe when you roast it longer, you're burning the caffeine out. Well, he's very passionate about coffee, and he's always been diving into it. And he brought up that he said, well, that's not technically true. What's actually happening is the longer you roast the bean, it's reducing the mass. So when you reduce the mass, that means less caffeine, because there's less mass to store the caffeine. So technically it was kind of true, but I was also very wrong scientifically. So, but yeah, so the longer the roast, the smaller the bean becomes, which means less caffeine. It doesn't concentrate the caffeine. It just means less caffeine.
A ball pit of greasy coffee beans.
Greasy, a ball pit of
you want to swim
They're not
in
greasy.
coffee beans.
They're
like a child ball pen, like you want like an adult ball pen of greasy coffee beans.
Yeah. Do you guys know what I mean by greasy though?
No.
Okay.
I just think you're adding lard to these coffee beans and you just want to go swimming.
No, definitely. I mean, sometimes.
Why are they shiny then?
Jen pointed it out, like, and it does sometimes leave like a texture on your fingers if you're. You know. I don't know if it's greasy. I don't know what it is. But
I feel like they don't get the shininess and like the wet looking.
Yeah. There's got to be a reason for that, right? I mean, there's a reason for everything.
It says normally in darker roasts because these oils will evaporate on lighter roasted beans, which rarely look oily. Very dark roasted beans will produce more oil on the surface.
Is that a Google explanation?
Yep.
Oil. That makes more sense. Not greasy.
Oily, not greasy. Gross.
But cool. We're already sort of on the feedback train. Do we want to get into some more notes we got on our
we received
episode?
I'm so sorry. That was so rude. I cut you off.
Oh, you didn't cut me off. No, you're totally fine. And Joe, thanks for that commentary and filling us in on that. That was definitely very interesting to learn. And more commentary we've kind of gotten back is people being interested in mushroom coffee. And so I started doing a little bit of research on that, and we plan on ordering a bag, and hopefully we'll have a lot more to talk about on that next week.
When you order that, like, how is it? Is it already made and you just brew it, or like what do you do?
It's the same as coffee, just like if we're buying a bag of coffee.
Beans?
Yeah, it might be ground already. I think it's already ground. It's not going to be beans.
That makes sense.
But it should be already ground, and so I'm gonna order some so we can try it, and hopefully we should have all the information for you on next week's at what should be June 2nd, I believe. So on that episode, we should have a lot of information on mushroom coffee, which would be really cool to try out.
For sure. If everything goes to plan. Some of the feedback that I was most excited about was all the enthusiasm for our coffee discussions. Definitely was a little bit of a surprise. We definitely, the coffee portion of the show is definitely going to be a big portion of the show, but I was surprised that there were so many people who were excited to hear us talk about coffee, which makes me excited because I love talking about coffee. And I think that with that sort of blessing from our listeners, it means that we can go into some more weird places with our coffee and try new things without having to, worry about talking too much about coffee. So super excited to take this coffee journey with my co-host. I think it'll be super fun.
It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, please send us like emails or just DM us, Yeah,
let us know what you guys love. If there's some weird roast or blend that you guys like, definitely let us know, because I, for one, am down to try pretty much anything. There's that infamous coffee that runs through the digestive tract of that. I think it's like an Indonesian cat or something. So, hey, if
you
guys
know
want
where
us
to get
try
that
it,
and you want to send it in,
I will gladly try it. So, not
We will also accept a donation of $75
to order it, so we can actually try it out.
Yeah.
Be pretty.
But yeah,
great.
I'm just super thrilled. I don't know if you guys are. I'm sure you are. But just the amount of feedback that we got, I just.
Yeah, I felt like every day I was getting someone else listening to the episode and commenting or sending in.
Bless you guys.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
Thank you. Shout out to my sister and my cousin and my friend Alexa and my boyfriend and my dad.
It's like an award ceremony. I just want to thank God. Without him, all things are. It's like.
I'll throw one more out there. Thank you, Sierra, my sister, for bringing up mushroom coffee, because I actually don't think I would have ever heard of it. Or I mean, eventually, I'm sure we would have stumbled into it, but it's cool. Have a little bit of direction, something new to try. So I'm excited to order that.
Was a thing. Definitely did not know it was a thing. Yeah, cool. So with that being said, we have an episode today coming up for you guys. We're going to be talking about some of our goals and our dreams and stuff. So you guys want to grab a refill and we'll jump into that?
Let's do it.
Before we get into the serious stuff, though, I had a question for you guys. I don't mean to spring this on you, but I'm going to spring it on you. So I just recently celebrated my 30th birthday. About a week and a half ago. And 30 was always one of those ages where I felt it felt like unattainable. It felt like so far off that I never thought I would hit it. Like, 16-year-old Adonis was like, oh, 30, that's so far away. I'm not even going to even think about it. So I was just having I didn't have like an epiphany, but I sat down and thought about it for a while. And I was curious, like, was there an age? Bryce, you're 30. Jen, you're what, 25? 25.
Yeah.
Is there an age that you guys have hit or are like that's like that you're aware of in your head where you're like, when I get to that age, that's gonna mean XYZ, or after I hit that age, these things became real for you? Was there like a significant age for you guys that you thought about?
With me, no. I remember when I was like 16 and I was getting a cell phone or something, or 18, I don't remember. And
so clearly not that
was
significant.
I was getting a cell phone and the girl asked me how old I was, and then she was like, oh yeah, after like 21, there's nothing to look forward to. Like, there's no like thing that you need to hit, like, oh, when I'm this age I can do this, blah blah blah. And she's like, after that it's just gonna fly by. And I just kind of was like, yeah, like whatever, but I'm already 25, and me thinking about high school, like, I don't remember much because I hated it, but when I look back, I'm like, that was like nothing ago, but it was actually like 8 years ago.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
So 8 years from now, I'm gonna be a full grown woman. So that's crazy.
You're not a full grown woman right
you
now?
don't consider yourself a full grown woman right now?
No.
Okay. Fair enough.
I don't think I ever really had that age that I thought was unattainable, or that that just felt super far off. Everything's always felt like it's right there. But my cousin, he's about 2-3 years older than me, and he would always tell me when he was 28, I was about 25, 26, and he would always tell me that he would just tell everyone he's 30. And I'm like, why would you do that? It's taking away 2 years of your life.
Yeah,
like, why would you do that? And he said, well, I mean, I'm basically 30. He had a wife and he had a kid and things like that. He had this routine, and he was just doing a lot with his life at the at the time, and I just didn't understand. And then I got to 28, and I began to understand because I started to do it, and I didn't realize why I was doing it at first. But then I realized, like, it's not like I had any big plans for 28. It's not like I had any big plans 29. I mean, like, life-wise. Like, I was doing things. I just didn't have anything that was going to happen specifically during those years. There was things I was already doing, but I wasn't planning. There wasn't anything that none of my goals were going to happen or end or get accomplished in the next 2 years. It was going to be
maybe saying like the 20s is like a feeling in itself, and
sort
then
of.
30s is like you've got your life together.
Maybe
not together, but I definitely have goals I know that will get accomplished in my 30s. I'm actively working towards. So for me right now, 35 is that next kind of big number for me, because that's where just mathematically and things I have things lined up for. Obviously, life changes, things are going to happen. But to me, that's my number in my head. It's 35 is the next big thing where things are going to happen.
How long has that been the number in your head, do you think?
A few years now.
Okay.
Probably 2 years solid. Probably 3 or 4 years kind of tentatively. But
so you haven't been like moving the finish line for yourself, like, or had
no,
you? Okay.
No, that's kind of been. I used to pressure myself time wise and think I needed to have certain things 3 years ago. Every day I would think that, and I was like, that's just not healthy. And I eventually was able to get out of that. But so I gave myself that 35 kind of timeline, and then also telling myself it's probably going to move. Yeah. But that's where I'm not going to use that as an excuse to not make decisions that will get me towards my goals. So I'm just going to say 35 is the most realistic number. If it happens before that, awesome. If it happens after that, that's okay. I'll just move my timeline. So, but that's just kind of where I'm at right now. Before this, I don't think I had major years that were especially like significant to me. Because like if I wanted to accomplish something, it wasn't my age that was stopping me. It was just me stopping me. So.
Yeah. As someone who didn't really finish university or anything like that, I don't really care about age. I'm just like going with the flow.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I've always been I've been like a reflective person in my life. Like I've always looked back on things rather than looking forward to how things should or are going to be. I don't know. Maybe that's not healthy. But I've always like looked back and been able to reflect on like past experiences. So I think like looking back on my 20s, I feel like my 20s were like I allowed myself to be selfish. Maybe not selfish, but I don't know another word for it would be. But my 20s were all about me. Mm-hmm. Like I remember like I was playing catch up in my mid 20s, probably like 23, because I didn't really do much as a kid. Like I didn't have like a rebellious phase. I didn't drink until I was 21. I never like partied or did anything crazy. So I kind of felt like I was playing catch up in my mid 20s. Like I wanted to have all those experiences because I didn't want to be one of those people who, you know, ends up 50 or 60 and looked back on his life and was like, damn, I didn't really have any fun as a kid. I didn't really do anything super interesting. So I wanted to make sure that I had those experiences. So looking back on my 20s, I can honestly say that I definitely had a lot of those experiences. Like I had a lot of fun in my 20s. I did a lot of things that I never thought I would get to do. Took some great trips. And not to say that part of my life is over, but if I were to die today, I wouldn't be like I wasted my youth. You know, like I feel like I got a lot out of my youth. And again, I'm 30. I'm not 50. So and I apologize to any 50-year-olds out there. 50 is still young too. You know, you could do a lot at 50, but so I'm thinking like my 30s are probably, I'm going to try to dedicate them more to like, I mean, like you guys are saying, like sort of plan out actual things and do things that will benefit my life as a whole, I guess, rather than just living in the moment. Mm-hmm. And I guess that's a good way to put it. I lived a lot in the moment in my 20s. Like I didn't think about the future.
That's awesome.
I think in my 30s,
I think I need to live more because I'm always I'm always thinking about death. And so if I were to die, maybe if we have like if we live past death or whatever, I would look back and be like, dang, I didn't really get much done. And I think that's probably why I'm anxious about it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because if I
that's the whole bucket list thing. I mean, that's why people make bucket lists, because they get anxious about not accomplishing certain things. And so they have this list and make sure that they start tackling it. So
yeah, and Bryce, you had talked about, you know, like things you wanted to have accomplished by 35, and you have some actually like super interesting ideas about what you want to accomplish. I think ideas that not a lot of people I don't think you find a lot of people who have similar ideas to you as far as like where you want your life to go, and putting that in a very broad, sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, you want to talk a little bit about what you want to do with your life? I know that's a loaded question, but
yeah, I mean, so as I'm getting, I don't know, every year I'm definitely getting closer and closer to more knowing who I am in a moment and knowing what I want. At the end of my life, I've always kind of had a picture of it and agreed with myself that that's my goal. But I've actually been feeling it and being in certain moments where I really feel like I'm recognizing moments where I feel the most myself and the most at peace, and how I could see myself just living my life day to day. And it just feeds into my big picture for myself later on. And what that is I want to own land, build a small home on it. I always use the word tiny home, but it could really just be any home at this point, and just something that's more just a home for myself, or that's the way I want it to be built. And I just see myself in like this clearing with a bunch of forest surrounding me, maybe some rivers, just basic nature stuff surrounding me. So I want land, build a home on it, and I want to build it myself. Which is why it'll end up being a tiny home, because I don't see myself being there's so much to learn. I don't know if I could learn and build a proper big house.
yeah.
But so where 35 comes into play is, financially speaking, that's I see myself being able to make the money I need to buy the amount of land I want to buy. And plus, I don't know where I want the land yet, so it gives me enough years to kind of travel and determine where I would want to buy this land. And it allows me and it also gives me a huge buffer to see if that's really what my goal is. And I've had this goal since I was about 25, and I'm 30 now. And over the last 5 years, it really is what I want. And it's every year it's coming more and more into fruition, and it's becoming more clear that it's exactly what I want. So yeah, that's my goal for myself. I have talked about what I would use the land for, what I would do with it. I've always been a huge traveler, and I would love it to be kind of. I would love to build other smaller homes on there. So if I happen to choose a state or choose a place where the land is kind of near other things, where if people are road tripping, or if people are trying to go to an event nearby or want a place to stay, or people are just trying to kind of escape life for a little bit, people I know, then I can provide that for them, and I can kind of provide a little weekend escape for them. Or you always have that family member who just needs to get out of the house for a day or needs to escape. And I want there to kind of be a thing where they can just call me up and be like, hey, I'm coming over for the 2 days. And I'm like, cool, I have this home set up for you, this little tiny home, basically a small apartment they could just escape to. And there's a bunch of nature around. You can just unwind for a little while.
Yeah, because you've talked about this a lot in the past, in our personal conversations and stuff. And we talked about it a few weeks ago, and we got into a little bit of like what does that look like in terms of like looking at it, I guess, literally as like how you're going to get all these materials and stuff together. And we talked a little bit about the process of building the homes and the land and everything like that. But one thing that I wanted to bring up to you then that I'm going to do now is like, how important to you is the process of building this? Like, if you had to put I don't know, we won't do any like numerical amount, but how, in your own words, like how important is the actual process of building these homes and like growing
the details and doing it all quote
does that
unquote
play
by
into
myself or hiring people who are actual electricians or
or I guess even more like looking at it as more of like a cathartic experience for you. Like, is the process of building it important, or if you could, would you be able to snap your fingers and have it made?
Yeah.
Or is the process
that's been
important?
part of my mindset as well, and what is also part of the buffer of years when I was 25 starting to think about these things.
Yeah.
and making 35 kind of that goal is also to breathe and think about those exact things. And recently what's been on my mind is actually that's been a pretty recent thought the past few months is how important is the process to me? Or do I just want to buy the land and then have someone build my homes for me and I just tell them what I want? And I've been thinking about it more, and I can really see myself not just like loving the idea of the process of building it myself, but I do see myself, no matter how long it takes, building it on my own and learning it as I go, because I want to learn these skills. Like these are things, one reason, there's a few reasons this idea started. One big reason this idea started of the land and building the home is it's not about isolation. It's not about escaping the world. It's about learning the skill sets. And it's about owning this land and building this this property that I get to pass on to a future generation, whether I have kids and I pass it on to them or I pass it on to somebody else who I know will take care of it and will appreciate it as much as I do. It's about passing it on and also passing on what I learned and the skill sets that I learned. The skill sets I think are really important to know. I don't think everyone needs to go out and build a house, but I would like to be able to know that I put in this kind of work and have this kind of discipline that I feel are important to building a character and building yourself as a person, especially someone who, I don't have severe mental disorders or anything, but I do go through depression and anxiety and those different things to a certain level. And I know that certain disciplines and things like this have helped me. However, I didn't grow up with those skill sets, but I am now in a job where I use drills, I build things, I build wooden materials, and I do some construction now, which I've never had before. And I always just thought, maybe I just like the idea of doing all this, and I think it's important to have all these skills for myself as a person. And then I've been doing it, and it has been absolutely amazing for me. It has been absolutely beautiful just to have my hand on a tool and putting something together, and now it's up and it's standing. Like I put that together. Like someone gave me a schematic, sure, but good. That means I don't know how to build a schematic yet, so that's fine. Now I have something I can trust. But I still built it and put it together. And so it felt so good, and I knew that my idea of wanting to build the home was...
Wait, you're going to build it?
Yeah.
With your hands?
Yes.
Because I brought that up because I was like, when we were talking about it and when we were prepping for today's episode, like I went to, because I read Khalil Gibran's The Prophet a lot. It's probably the closest thing to like religion that I subscribe to. And he's got all these sections in there, and one of them is about like labor, and he talks about a big portion of it is talking about like building things with love. Like, you know, like if you labor with love, basically you will appreciate what you build or what you do so much more than if you would have someone like do it for you. Like you would appreciate it.
I was thinking about people that build things the other day. I think yesterday. There's this girl. I don't remember her name. Simone or something like that. She's really popular on YouTube.
Shouts out to Simone or something like that.
And she used to build things all the time.
Yeah.
And she was on this like journey to meditate every single day. I was just thinking about her. She got like a brain tumor. So
is this the girl
who builds a bunch of things, like just random
like
projects?
useless robots?
Yeah. Oh yeah, she's great.
Yeah.
I watched the whole surgery. I watched all of her videos. I haven't kept up the past 4 or 5 months, I think.
It's like Gertz or something like that's her last name. Yeah, because she did a TED Talk after everything.
She's great.
That was really, really interesting. But yeah, and I mean that's something that brings her joy to do that, to do those kind of things. So yeah, I was just curious because I was like, yeah, I'm sure that's got to be an important part of something. And like another question, and then we'll give you a breather. I
love talking about this.
Like how I know you want to buy like a specific amount of land and things like that. Do you see it as something that's going to be constantly growing and changing, or is it one of those things where once it's done, you just kind of want it maintained?
I think I would like to just keep maintaining it, but I'm completely open to it changing. I actually do envision it just always changing. Whether that's by my own desires or, you know, if I meet someone and they want to build this with me, or They have their own ideas of how, like, this is something we're going to be sharing now.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like, it's been my goal, my dream. If I meet someone and I want to start a family with them, like that, that does change things. And so if, like, we own that and this other person, doesn't have an apartment, doesn't have their own place, maybe we don't have our own place together. It's one thing for me to be on my own and just like camping out on my land and building this thing, that's a whole individual journey. But if I'm dating someone now and they come into the picture and we want to start a family and things kind of escalate in that manner, well, then I would definitely be open to, okay, I already kind of have the idea of what our house is going to look like. Let's hire some people. Let's have them build this and change it. Now, as far as your question goes, like I can see it, the land just changing, and maybe we want to build a different type of home. So we build a different one and maybe we tear the other one down and we use some of those materials from that house on a different house that we're going to build. Or maybe people move into the land with us. Maybe we want to share it with friends or other people who want to, sell a plot of it and have it, or we see gardens growing, or we see different things changing on it.
That'd be awesome if you could have your own community.
Yeah, and I know that's something I've
is that culty?
thought about that. That's
weird?
that's the line. So actually Adonis and I have specifically talked about that, and I think on one hand it can be. I think it just depends on the goals and what you're achieving, what you're trying to do. And I think that is something very important that I have will be putting more thought into. I have thought about it some, and I think there's a line there somewhere. I just don't know what it is.
I mean, there are communes that exist without being cults, and when you say cult, I feel like there's definitely a negative connotation behind it. But I feel like
cults aren't completely negative.
If you have a community of people, if you have a commune, that's what they are. It's like if you have that, and as long as people aren't doing anything illegal, or if you're not doing anything,
well, think about
brainwashing people. So as long as you're not doing that,
I think about it more as my close friends would come to live on the land with me. But that's like, that's kind of how I see it.
But like, what if people start building like routines, or like, oh, we're so used to like everybody borrows each other's sugar, like you have to help us. Like,
I think as long as people, as long as Bryce doesn't start making people call him master. Or
it's not like I'm not gonna like set rules and laws of the land. Like I don't think like it's all about, because when I think of your question about are you willing, what do you see things changing, or are you just gonna maintain it? It's like I see it just growing and changing all the time, and especially if other people come to it is my land. So if I invite people to come live on it, then it's our land. Sure, I own it, but I'm not gonna just set.
You're not gonna be.
I'm gonna like be a dictator and create that whole hierarchy mentality. Where like, this is our community circle. I lead it, and these are what the laws are of the land. It's more of just like, if I'm inviting someone to, I know these people.
Exactly.
Like, that's kind of like
who's gonna be like wanting to do something.
I don't want to do a law of the land situation.
Yeah, of course. I was listening to Joe Rogan one time talking about depression with this man that was talking about how, like, basically, like, loneliness is, like, really bad. Well, yeah. But, like, people that live in community and have that community, like, sense of, like, family.
Yeah.
Like, they definitely feel a lot better. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why, like, Mexicans, they stick together, Like, you don't leave until you have your own family. But... yeah, I don't know.
Do you see that as more of like a I don't know, like because I've seen the positive effects of that, and I've also seen the negative effects of that. Do you feel that's more like, I feel like with Bryce's idea, it's going to be people who want to come to this community and live there. Do you feel like that sometimes people get stuck in that sort of tradition and that they don't have the choice really?
I don't know.
Do you feel like it's more people want to be a part of the tradition?
I think people feel like, like they want to be a part of it. Maybe. Obviously, there's going to be people that want to leave. When I was a certain age and I wanted to leave, I did.
Because I guess I've known people from like Mexican households who have been like, I want to leave, and then their parents are like, no, you're not leaving. And then if they end up leaving anyway, it becomes a whole thing.
And
like,
they're deciding.
They get shunned.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that was basically my situation.
Okay.
I wanted to leave. I didn't tell them I was leaving until the weekend before. Bye. And they didn't help me move.
Yeah.
And it felt weird. Like
That's
I
what mean.
wish,
So I guess
I wish
that's
I
the
would have
difference,
had
was like the forced community versus the chosen.
right.
Community. Yeah,
Okay. But yeah, I would totally live on your land if I could, and then we could have a community garden.
Yeah, we'll see what the ideas turn into when I officially, because even now, until I reach the goals of starting to buy the land and then start building, like even then, my mindset will kind of more officialize by then, and then also, I am sure my mindset will change as I'm building it. Maybe as I'm building it, I'm falling really in love with it. And I'm like, no, this is my space. Like, I don't want people on my space like that. I can totally see that happening. Like, right now, it's awesome to think I would love to have my friends come and live on this land with me. But, that could change. Obviously, it's a thought in my head.
So
I'm
when
bringing
you
it up right
look
now.
up land, it's not that expensive or what?
It depends where you're buying it. Just like as if you were buying a house, it just depends where you're buying it.
My parents are from a really small town in Mexico. Like, they were born there. And I think it's cool to have, like, a lot of space, you know? Like, you can actually breathe and you can actually see the sky and at night. And, like, but then there's also, like, that thing where it's, like, people that live near you, like, you have to have a lot of communication with them. Every time you're leaving to go to the store, you say bye, like, and like that's nice. But then also sometimes I just want to run by and like cover my face, like don't look at me. And is that because I'm very shy and like I get social anxiety, so I don't know how they're gonna react, or is it because I hate people? Or is it because I just don't want to? Maybe today I don't want to look at you. Maybe
I don't
today
think there's no law or rule book that says like when you have to say it or when you don't have to say it.
But if I didn't say it to them, they'd be like, "Oh,
they would
she
get
hates
like,
me."
I
See?
That's interesting. And it's interesting that Bryce, that you brought up, like maybe wanting to flip the script and be like, "Hey, I want to do this just for me." It makes me think of one of my favorite movies is Into the Wild.
Which I still need to watch.
Yeah, it's based off of a true story about this guy named Christopher McCandless, who basically shuns everyday like life, and he wants to go out and live in the wild and just be himself and be free and live off the land and stuff like that.
We've talked about that before.
Yeah.
I'm still gonna buy groceries. I'm not trying to live off the land, guys.
But there's one of the quotes that he wrote like right before he died. Spoiler alert. Sorry. Is that he scratched it inside of this inside of the bus that he ended up dying in, this abandoned bus that was out in the middle of the woods. And he wrote, "Happiness is only real when shared." Like that was one of the last things that he wrote, because he was so in like intensely like, I just want to go off and live and be like this nature man, this wild man, and do my own thing and not not be connected to the world. But like one of his last like realizations before he died was that this is like happiness is only real when you share it with someone else. Yeah. And I know a lot of people like
I think
probably
about that
don't
too a
subscribe
lot
to that belief, but yeah, it's
because
an interesting
sometimes I'll find myself being like, oh, but like, why do I want cool clothes if like it only matter if this is probably a whole different thingy.
No,
but I'll be like, it only matter if I'm actually like out with people or if I take a picture and share it online. And I'm like, why do I care about that? Like what? Yeah.
I mean, I agree with that because even though I did put out the thought that I might just be doing it for myself, like I still want, like when I think of dating or relationships, like I want to, well, even just friendships, just anything. Like I always, pretty frequently throughout my life, I've always had ideas that I want to do, things I want to do. And like, I'm going to do them for myself no matter what. Like I'm going to do them. But I always want people to I want people to do it with me. Mm-hmm. But it's very, very, very seldom that people want to do it with me or are as involved in it or supportive of it as I am of my ideas. And
you don't want to wait for other people.
Exactly, because I've spent plenty of time waiting on people saying, oh, yeah, just next week or in a couple weeks, or we're going to do this hike for sure. Yeah. And then I end up waiting, and I don't do it because I want to share it with them. I want to wait, and I want to do it with them. I don't want my first time to be by myself. I want it to be with them, and they said they're going to do it. Yeah. I wasted so much time waiting, and now I'm just going to do it, and I'm not bitter about it at all. Like, if they don't want to do it, that's fine. Now I'm going to do it on my own, and not in a bitter sense. I'm excited to do it. I just, I'm going to be, the happiness is shared thing. I will be even more happy if someone if I'm telling someone my story or telling someone like, hey, I'm working on this is what I'm doing with my life, and then they just show up and are a part of it, or they decide they want to be part of it and they start becoming a part of it, like that's when I know like this is a great person. Like it's just it doesn't happen.
We were talking about BoJack earlier, and it goes back to that. I mean, even in that show, there's a point where he realizes like, you know, I need people in my life for me to be happy. Like that's and I don't know, again, that's not something that everyone has to subscribe to, but I do feel like it's a common thread with happiness. Is like, if I don't have anybody to share this with, then what's the point? You know? And I think it even goes to something as little as like, we've all been there when we really enjoy a song or a movie or a book. We want to share that with someone, and then someone we care about, we share that with them, and they don't have the same appreciation for it as we do. That's like a gut punch, at least for me. Like if I'm like, oh, I love this movie, and I'm telling my best friend, hey, you need to watch this movie, and they don't have that same reaction, or at least a semblance of it, you're like, oh man, I'm super disappointed. Like,
I have two questions.
I have a thing to say too after you're done.
Do you think that we feel like, do you think that maybe we haven't found the right people for us, or do you think that maybe we should just have as many friends, and like maybe some friends should like shouldn't, but like maybe some friends will like those things but not other things, and that's why you have other friends to share other things with?
Yeah, I agree. I think the latter. I would say
Yeah.
for sure. Like I think you do, and I feel like everyone has that friend or those friends that they feel like they're super close with, that they're like, I should be able to share if something speaks to me on a deep level, and I share it with you no matter what it is. Like, I feel like everyone has at least, well, maybe not everyone, but I at least have people who I know.
Do you think a partner should be mostly everything?
I don't think it's.
Really?
I don't know. That's a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
But in short, I don't think so.
Okay.
I would like it to be.
Yeah.
I definitely, my want and my desire is for that person to be that, but I don't think it has to be.
I don't think it has
or should
to be.
Yeah.
Because I think friends and relationships are separate. Like,
Yeah.
I think,
You're right.
and you know, you do get those people who are like, oh, my wife or my husband is my
everything,
best friend,
yeah.
and I can, which is fine. I'm
That's
not saying that
that's
there's
cool.
anything wrong with that, but I also don't think anything's wrong with the opposite. Like, I don't think your wife or boyfriend needs to be your best friend. Like, I think, you know,
they're different.
we may just have like I don't think it's a necessary thing for a successful relationship.
Yeah.
Okay. What were you going to say, Bryce? We can definitely talk about partners another time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was going to say, oh man, what was it that you said right before she said her questions?
I was going to say, I was like, 2 questions.
Yeah, I just talked about like just sharing something
For
with
you.
someone and
Sorry.
wanting them to have the same reaction you do to that thing.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
the gut punch thing. That
Oh,
was
yeah.
what it was
Oh,
about.
yeah.
So I used to feel that way about like they didn't share my gut punch, and I would be super disappointed. Now I don't get disappointed. Now it's just a matter of now the only times I get upset or disappointed is if that person didn't even bother
Ooh,
to
that's a
try it out or
Oh,
listen to it. Like this
yeah.
BoJack Horseman thing is a perfect example of it. I mean, this is why I love being in this friendship with you two, is because we're each going to try our other things, whether it's not something we normally would
Yeah.
or not. We each are going to try it, which is why I'm loving going through. But you both really got involved with that show and really got a lot out of it. I like it, but I'm not as in love with it as you two are, but I'm still going to finish it just because that's what I want for my friends. It's like if I recommend something and they're part of the conversation and they say they're going to listen to it or watch it or whatever it is, generally speaking, they'll at least I would like them to at least try, read the first 10 pages or listen to the first 10 minutes of this podcast, or because that's something I would do.
Are you upset that I didn't finish?
No, this was not a passive aggressive comment on that, because you listened to the first song of each thing, and if that's enough for you to decide.
I got the vibe of it, and I wasn't
in
the mood.
Real quick, the context is that we each had a list of 5 albums that we think were the best of all time. And we each recommended a couple albums to each other, and these are definitely albums each of us would not normally listen to, and Jen only listened to the first
Say
song.
what yours were.
Mine was Manchester Orchestra, Mean Everything to Nothing, and then the album Scenes from a Memory by Dream Theater, and they're definitely just not either of theirs vibes, and I knew that and so it doesn't. But you did listen to the first songs, which is to me that is an attempt. Like, and I know you, so I know that was. Like that's you got what you needed to out of that.
I think the unique thing about sorry, go ahead, Jen.
Oh no, so I was just gonna say you told us to like that it was like it was basically like you had to listen to it all like. Well, you told us we could listen to it like half and half, you know.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to do that. I wanted to get that full experience, and I was always looking for a time to just like be alone with that album. But I feel like I never found it during that week that I was like not doing anything, and now I just forgot.
I think we're also what's unique about us as a group of friends is that we're aware that we don't all have the same interests, you know, and we're conscious of that. So I'm not gonna go out and tell you guys to watch or experience something that I know you guys didn't experience and expect you to have some kind of visceral reaction to it. You know, like I could talk all day about how amazing like the Patriots comeback in Super Bowl 51 was against the Atlanta Falcons, and how that was like an emotional experience for me, and it's probably one of the happiest moments of my life because I don't want you. I know you guys wouldn't care. Like it would be something where you would just like.
I have no idea what any of that means.
It's a game, you know. So I wouldn't recommend. I wouldn't put you in that position to shoot me down. I guess like I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah.
So and I think that goes for all of us. I think they're like Jen is constantly trying to push TikTok on us. Well, me specifically, and I refuse. So I guess to some degree,
because she's pushing the wrong portions of TikTok on us.
I think it's funny.
But yeah, okay. So Jen, you're the youngest of us. You're the youngin'. What are some of your goals and things you want to accomplish?
Oh
in life?
shoot. Okay. So I think sometimes like literally like when I get that burst of motivation, I come up with brand new goals. I'm not even kidding. And maybe that's not good because then that means I'm not focused, right? But I feel like ever since I feel like I sort of changed a year ago when I had like this whole thing in my brain that I was like, wow, I'm gonna die and be nothing. And so ever since then, I'm just kind of like be in between like living and doing whatever the heck I want, and also being like really careful and scared all the time. You know what I mean? So it's weird. I feel sad that I'm telling you guys and you guys are like, okay, do you not dream? Like, you know what I mean? I feel bad, but not bad because I'm not entertaining enough, but bad because I'm like, wait, what the heck? I'm sad. But anyways, I think, like I was saying before, I do think about death a lot. Okay. And so because of that, I don't plan ahead. Like now that COVID is happening too, I want to be super hopeful and see the end. Yeah. But at the same time, I'm like, oh.
No, do you have a so for me, my idea came from just like this end goal picture. It came from a feeling and a vibe first of what I wanted at the end. Where do I see myself? Like when I am like on my deathbed, quote unquote, like where do I see myself? What's the feeling I want to have, and how do I achieve that? And that's where my picture came in. Okay. It came in. That's where like the land and the home came from. And as long as I'm working towards that, even if it's slowly, even if it doesn't happen until I'm 50 or 60, but if I am making decisions that build my character and build my finances towards that, I'm happy. I'm satisfied. I'm doing what I can to achieve my individual personal goal of that, and I'm okay. And that's how I stay focused on the end goal. Is that's my. But do you have anything like that?
Yeah. So let's say I live till I'm like 75. Okay.
Solid
or
age.
past.
Solid age, I feel like.
I think about living. The main thing I feel is peace. So, and I love like nature. I don't want to like live like in a mountain, but I do want to live like near nature,
Okay.
and I love Arizona. So I think I would stay here, and I do think I want to start a family.
It's interesting that you love Arizona, though. Like,
I didn't say I like the people.
oh no,
I can't control
Attacks
them.
have been-
no, I was just thinking, like, because well, that's part of it,
Why?
but it's just like I don't know. I see you as a very like forward-thinking person, and I don't think this is a very forward-thinking state.
no, that's
so.
what
It's
I'm
good to say.
saying.
Think of you
I
as a
can't
traveler.
control-
Whenever we talk, I just think
Really?
of you as like a traveler or someone who would maybe not want to settle down somewhere else, but like I can see you coming back to Arizona and settling here. So as far as your vision and your dream goes, I can see that. But I see you doing like traveling so much before then
Really?
and coming up with a bit of a different
I'm a
idea.
scaredy cat. That's my problem. So my boyfriend is a big traveler, and he loves it. Like, he's been everywhere. He's road tripped to places. He's driven to New York from New Jersey or something, like,
Oh,
because he
that's, like,
stayed there or
10 hours.
something.
It's like 30 minutes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't even know the map
Dang.
of United States.
Big traveler there.
He road trip from New Jersey to New York, guys. Like, he's serious.
Oh my!
I don't know. That's
me-
like 5 hours
That's
of the traffic.
me telling you that he's a traveler.
I got you.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm just
Yeah.
Okay. So, anyways, I get scared of being somewhere that I don't know. That's
But so like for your goal, so you see yourself kind of like in a setting of Arizona because you see
I
yourself
want
being
to
here.
be
So
a park ranger at one point
Oh, that'd be cool.
and just be like
Mhm.
kind of hippie-ish, but I'm not a what are they called? Granola.
I mean, yeah. I mean, that's.
Granola
I think that's.
something?
I think that's an older
I'm-
term.
So
I
are
don't.
you
Okay.
thinking of a slur that
I
you're
don't.
trying to say?
Yeah,
that a
basically,
slur?
I
like,
don't
yeah.
know.
I
No,
mean, I
it's
forget
not.
the exact term or phrase, but there is like you being like there's like granola hippies essentially.
Yeah,
I
like
don't
that's a
But
Well,
that's like
I'm-
that is like as an older slur and term, like towards
Wow.
that. So
Derogatory term, maybe not.
Anyways,
Slur
I
is the
do
wrong word.
picture
Yeah, I
myself
guess
as
that's
a
the wrong
lot
word.
of a lot of hippie things,
Yeah.
Mhm.
but I'm not saying that I would like grow my everything like myself
Yeah.
or like be anti-vaccine. Like, I'm not like that either.
Got you.
That's all I'm trying
Similar
to say.
to what Bryce.
Oh,
I
I'm
mean, I
not
feel
saying
like
yeah,
they're
it's pretty
anti-vacciners, by
similar
the way.
stuff,
I am
yeah.
not stereotyping anybody. I'm just saying.
So yeah, similar to like you want to live with nature, not in nature.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
guess like you want to still
Like
be able
have
to
a big
go to Fry's,
backyard.
and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
I'd
I
love
get
that.
I get
I
that.
used to drive like okay,
it's
so
like
Gilbert
a Sedona
isn't
type
a
or Payson
perfect.
type kind of thing,
Ooh,
Yeah.
or Flagstaff. I mean, any one of those places, Prescott, anywhere kind of more north.
Yeah, I love Arizona.
Yeah.
Like, I love the sunset. I don't understand why you don't love it.
I just don't. Well, you can separate the people and the politics. I can't. I guess that's.
You're right.
I just need.
Because
to
if
be
I do
somewhere
have kids
where free
here,
things are
it kind
there.
of does suck in that way.
Yeah.
That's sad. When it's made up of like 20%.
I mean, if we're going
Hispanic.
that route, I mean, I would raise my kids out of country. So
Fair
That's true. I would go live in.
that's a whole different conversation too.
enough. That's true.
I do think about family a lot. That's why I
Yeah.
wouldn't just be like, oh, I'm going to go live in Europe, you know? There's certain
Yeah, well, again, a
European
lot of your
countries
family
that
is
are very
in
cool.
Mexico, so
Yeah.
that's another reason to stay in Arizona and be close to
Mm-hmm.
as
That's
close
true.
as you can
Yeah,
to that.
That's
To
fair.
the border, yeah.
So that's
Fair
definitely
point.
a holding factor,
I'm
which is
being a
there's
Texas.
very
Even though,
important to think
oh
about.
my gosh, Texas.
California
Why?
too. I mean, they're both close.
California's expensive.
Arizona's getting there.
But
We're
my
trying.
my dad wanted to move to like Southern California in Mexico, you know, Baja California.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, I like the vibe of California, but it's when I go there, I just go for vacation. I
get
wouldn't
you.
want to
Yeah.
live there.
I mean, I can't tell you what to like and not to like.
I know.
Because I've known that about you, and I still think it's interesting that you are like that you're so in love with this state.
Yeah.
It's not my fault.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just not something that I would assume.
It's
Maybe-
okay. All the old people are gonna die.
That's true.
Did you know that Trump is nervous about 65 and plus people dying because they're his main
Well,
voters?
that's a fair point. Yeah.
So
Thanks. I have like the opposite of what these guys. Well, not the opposite is a strong word. I am definitely the type of person that when I look, forward into the future, I definitely see myself in a city somewhere, like ideally somewhere like New York City or LA or somewhere, because I grew up a city boy, and I love to experience nature and be a part of nature for small periods of time. You know, if I'm going to vacation somewhere, oh yeah, send me out to the woods and like I'll hang out there for a week or so. But I definitely don't see myself living there forever. Like I don't see my forever home being somewhere disconnected. I like the vibes of cities. I like being places where I feel like life is happening. I love the fast-paced environments. So like when I lived in New York for 6 months, that was probably one of the happiest times of my life. Was just because I felt New York just has an energy where you just feel like you're part of the world. I don't know how to explain it really, other than saying it like that. But it's just you feel like you're in. You know,
Is that not overwhelming?
I love it. I thrive on that kind of energy. Maybe if you are the type of person who likes privacy or likes to, you know, be able to breathe, then maybe.
Yeah,
But
I just
I
feel
could be left alone for a month and nobody talked to me.
I mean, I feel like
That'd
that
be good.
vibe is basically, I mean, it's kind of like the vibe of this podcast expounded, like you're inside of it now. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, a big point and purpose of this podcast is to grow and learn with each other and think about more different topics of the world, intrinsic and extrinsic. And I feel like when you're in a city, you're completely 100% connected to it.
Exactly, and I love that feeling of being connected. I like the feeling of being able to do stuff. Like there's never a dull moment in New York City, like or in big cities. Like if I want to go see a show, I can go see a show. I can go do something that people travel thousands of miles to do. You know, if I want to go and do these crazy things that people vacation to do, to be able to do that on a daily basis is just something that I would love. You know, and I would just love for my kids to be raised somewhere, looking, you know, the family route. I would love my kids to be raised somewhere where they can experience multiple cultures all in a single space, you know, like not have to, you know, vacation somewhere in order to go
to
and be
experience a
exposed to
culture. Yeah,
Exactly.
I think about that all the
There's
time.
so
That's
many,
very
like
smart.
every other block in New York City, you're going to experience a different culture, and I would love for them to grow up in that sort of melting pot of culture and life.
Yeah.
And because I do want my kids to be worldly people, I do want them to be open-minded, free-thinking people. And I think you have to not that you have to grow up in a city to experience that, but you have to be somewhere where you can experience something or have people who teach you things that aren't closed-minded.
Yeah.
So like for you guys, you would have to like
Go
the
out of
burden
our way
that
to
would
do
be
it.
exactly,
And
would
that's
be on you.
that has crossed my. That's a very important piece to if I start a family and I'm in that. You know, I've built this home and this land. And yeah, I'm not looking to isolate. I'm not trying to like be 6 hours from civilization. Like I plan on being like at least like within an hour or like, you know, maybe, you know, an hour away from like major grocery stores in like a city. Maybe I don't plan on, I'm not trying to escape the world again, I said. But that was one thing that I've thought about is when I buy the land, like it's going to be for money I have, and because you can get land loans, but it's very hard. So for me, I would have to buy it all cash, and everything would be money up front. So what that means for my kids is that since everything's already paid, I already own it, then all my money can go towards making sure that they are experiencing different cultures. So I plan on traveling a lot and taking them to different places and spending a lot of time outside and inside that land. I don't plan on just like, you know, if I have kids, just raising them there. And then their
And then
biggest
you have a
exposure
farm,
is
and then-
is the half an hour drive into town.
Yeah.
And like, that's not what I want at all.
Okay.
Like I plan on still traveling. I plan on doing lots of traveling all the way up until I die. And I hope that the person I meet would need to want to travel also.
Yeah.
And that's, I want to take my kid to all my friends I've met around the world. I want them to explore. I want them to want to. So
Adonis,
that's important too.
I didn't think about that part of it, because if I like people that are from small towns and aren't open-minded and stuff, like that sucks. Like
You do, you hear about like the
and
small
I don't-
town mentality.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I don't want to. You know, I don't want them to go to an elementary school that, or be homeschooled, or go to an elementary school where the kids like are raised a certain way, and if you're anything like a little bit different. Like they make fun of you, you know?
Yeah. And can you imagine when we are of that age where we're having kids, like the internet is going to be even bigger than it is now. So like most of their learning is going to be done online, especially if you live, in a limited area. So all of their information, and I don't know about you guys, but that terrifies me. Like, for if all my, life experience came from the internet, I would be a totally different person. I would be a much more hateful person.
I don't know if that terrifies me. It's something when I think about having kids, I think about that's going to open up a whole new world to me that I'm excited for, because that's going to force me to be more part of the internet. It's going to force me to be more aware of topics that are going on, more aware.
You better start now, Bryce, because you're already an old man on the
Yeah, but that's the thing is when I dive into things, I deep dive, but I usually need a reason to. I need a personal connection to need. So when I have a kid, I'm so excited because there's so many educational experiences, so many things I don't dive in on my own that I would love to learn about. But if I took hours and hours out of my life right now to learn these things, they're not relevant to a skill set for my job. They're not relevant to things that we're learning together. Like I would love to learn electronics. If I learned electronics right now, it's not like I'm trying to get into the career field of electronics. So it's legit. I'm paying money or I'm spending hours of my time to learn something that doesn't affect me right now, and I can't put into practice right now.
Yeah.
So, but if I have a kid, now I'm opening up their mind. I want their mind to be as open as I can have it, and that means exploring all these different educational pieces, and I get to explore it with them. And they're going to learn faster than me, but I get to be there for it, and I get to keep my mind open while I'm helping them learn more. So I'm excited for that. So yeah, the internet can be a huge part, but I'm not scared of it. I'm excited to have a reason to dive into it and to be more connected.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that 100%. The part that's scary to me, though, is just that it's already super accessible for kids. I feel like it's going to be more accessible in 10, 20 years. And, having to monitor what they're doing and because you do. And I know, I'm of the belief that you don't want to censor your kids from real life. But I do think you have to, like, there has to be some level of censorship. Like,
there's certain things the minds aren't ready to learn, or you're not ready to explain. Like,
and that's just going to get harder, I feel like, as we grow up. I mean, you look at, not to shit on TikTok even more, but we talked about it a little bit last time. Like how many of these people who are predators online go on TikTok and just have a field day with these young girls, dancing provocatively and stuff like that. And it's like, the kids, they're not thinking of it as anything. They're just following the trend. They're just doing what everybody else is doing, not realizing that there are people out there who are preying on that.
There's been worse things on there, but I don't even want to talk about that right now. Yeah. But
but then that's just a small example, That's just something that is, and again, it's just going to get, and again, I'm not trying to fearmonger here. Yeah, the internet is great in certain aspects, but it's also a degenerate, black hole of terribleness as well. Like you can it's those two things at the same time, because it's great that you can go online and learn about anything you want to learn about, but it's also, let's be real.
I wanted to, unless you had more thoughts on those, I wanted to do a circle back on something, but did you guys have more thoughts on?
I just wanted to say my last thing was that I think at the end of the day, I don't really like a goal for me. My main goal in life is to be happy. Like that's all I really want, and that's all I really can ask for out of life.
Are you not happy right now?
I am, but I think long-term happiness is different than like
that city living would be.
Yeah, like I just I'm happy. I'm a happy person, but I'm content. But I think if at the end of my life, if someone asked me like what goal did you accomplish, if I can say I was happy for the majority of my life, then I think I will have lived a good life. And I mean, there's a lot that goes with that, but I think that's what I put most of my effort into, is making sure that I'm happy and the people around me are happy.
Yeah, it's important.
Happy is such a
it's a different
conversation.
Big broad.
We'll have a conversation about happiness.
Okay.
What I wanted to circle back on, you asked me earlier in this topic, would you be open to, are you looking to maintain the land, or are you accepting if it changes and grows and all that? I just want to make sure I'm not sure if I answered that completely to what you were asking, or if you had specifics to what you were asking.
Well, no, I think you did answer it when you said you would like to maintain it, but also you wouldn't be opposed to it changing.
Yeah. What did you have in mind when you meant
when I was
it
thinking,
changing?
Well, changing, well, I guess because you had mentioned also that you would love for this to be something that you could pass down, to a child or something. So I guess when I asked the question, my head was like, okay, when you're passing it down, are you saying,
oh, do you want them to? Do you want this to
Johnny,
be?
I'm leaving you this land. I want you to keep it. Like,
Yeah,
I want you
no,
to make.
definitely
or are you saying,
not.
Like, I want you to make it your own.
This is make it your own thing,
Okay.
and this is something. This is where I would hope that I live long enough to where my child becomes, a grown adult.
Yeah.
And so at that point, it's kind of like, look, do with it what I hope to have a conversation saying, hey, this land and all this has been very important to me.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not as important to you, I just need to know, because then I will pass it on to someone who it's more important to, or who will appreciate it. It's like, and at that point, I hope we've had an open relationship at this point to where they understand it's not like a slight. There's no disappointment. There's nothing. Like, it's just, it is what it's a fact. Like, it's, but, if they are, a little kid and something, and the land gets passed on to them and they grow up and like, this isn't the life I wanted.
Yeah.
Sell it. Do whatever you want with it. Like, to me, the land and the house is my individual project. And now I'm growing my family in this and raising a child. And this is just something this is an atmosphere for me and my loved one to raise a child in, and it's the most comfortable and best atmosphere for me to have a mindset to do that. But as a child is raised, they're going to have a whole different mindset and what's important to them, and I would expect them to do with the land whatever they're going to do with it. I'm gone. It doesn't, whatever I built, if that's important to them, they want to keep it going, go for it. Or if they have a different version of what that means, do that instead. So
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I think that was a pretty solid conversation we had there. Any last thoughts or notes you guys want to have on dreams and goals before we head into something else?
Funny that I think it's great actually.
Yeah.
That none of us. Okay, not to be mean towards people that care a lot about their career or measure success with money.
Yeah.
I think it's great that we kind of just establish feelings.
Yeah.
Like what we want to feel at the end, not what we want to have physically.
I've always been a big believer in who you are is more important than what you do. Like I've never been the type of person that's been you're not going to learn anything about me by asking me what I do for a living. That's not where my life has. That's not where the focus of my life has been, and I really don't want that to be the focus of where my life goes.
I've always been surrounded by people that care a lot about that.
Yeah, no, I think all of us.
I think that was my holdup for a long time, or throughout my 20s, was I had always had that mindset that we're talking about right now, where it's all about the feelings and who we are, not what we do.
Yeah,
job wise, but I think I kind of lived that way, but I always thought, and I've always been a workaholic. I always will be a workaholic. I love to just do things and be working on something. Or if I have a job, I love to spend a lot of time there because I usually create a family atmosphere there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I always thought I needed to have that mentality of being career-minded. So I think whenever I create a family, I'm career-minded, but I'm not. I'm just family. Now I understand I'm family-minded. And so whenever I go somewhere, I try to create, I try to be a part of or create a family atmosphere. And I kind of just learned that about myself recently because I was definitely hung up on, I thought I was just career-minded. Like my happiness relied on a good career along with my own individual goals. But I learned that that's not the case, which was good. I'm happy I learned that because that was rough.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what it means to grow. All right, guys, we're going to grab one last refill, and then we'll come back with Brewer's Choice. See you in a bit. Cool. All right. So we're going to be doing this thing probably every week where we're going to be giving you guys recommendations just on things that we've been listening to, watching, eating. They're just pretty widespread recommendations, and we just want to, use this as a platform to share our interests with you guys. So, I mean, Jen, you can start us off. What is something that you have been...
I would like to recommend The Florida Project. It's a movie on Netflix.
Nice.
So you have easy access to it. But it's, I like movies that just go through someone's day or life, or I just want to know people's stories.
Mm-hmm.
Like, pretend that I am living there for a little bit and then go back to my life.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely thought it was a really good movie. Big Willem Dafoe fan, and I'm a big, I think in anime they call them slice of life animes, where you're just literally just transported into somebody's life and situation, and
You just exist with it.
you just exist with it. And this is definitely like a slice of life type of movie. You just, you feel such a connection with the characters. And Jen, when you told us you watched this, you were like, it felt like a childhood that you didn't live personally, but you still connected with.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like everybody is gonna feel that way when they watch that movie, because you feel so connected to it, even though it's probably something you've never experienced before.
Yeah.
This is a very specific situation. So I agree. Definitely a solid movie. Bryce, you haven't seen it yet, right?
I have not seen that. I did not know it was on Netflix, though. So
Yeah.
I saw it when I was scrolling through Netflix the other day, I think. And so I think I will watch it because I'm a big Willem Dafoe fan. So
Gotcha. I'm going to use my mind to talk about something and recommend something that we've talked about several times this episode, and that's BoJack Horseman.
Yay.
I want more people to watch that series, and I know you may not love it. We have a very, we have the example of that here. Like I told Jen about it, she watched it and she loved it. Bryce likes it. He just doesn't, like he said earlier, he's not in love with it like Jen and I are.
Maybe we set our expectations
Maybe
too
that's
high.
right. Yeah, so I won't do that this time around. I think it's a great example of being an adult. Somebody said it, I'm forgetting who said it, but someone said it's a show about growing up for grown-ups. Like there are various issues and stuff that are tackled in this show that I think are very adult, and I think most adults will be able to relate to in some way, shape, or form. I actually think the animation style is really cool. I know that's thrown a lot of people off, but I like it. I think the characters are great. I think the voice acting is great. I think it's hilarious. So BoJack Horseman, 6 seasons, all streaming on Netflix. It's a Netflix original. Check it out if you haven't.
my recommendation is going to be music.
Oh.
I was trying to find, there's something I listened to recently that I really enjoyed, but I can't find it at the moment. But we as in me, Adonis and Jenna, talked about playing songs on repeat, or things we've listened to. We can just put on repeat and listen to it forever. Adonis is not of that field.
I just think it's weird, guys.
Me and Jen and I, we can just maybe we'll find that song or that album that we really love, and we will legitimately...
When you say album, that's
okay,
different.
song. Let's go back to song. We'll find a song, and
You
we can just
can-
listen to a
You
song.
can go on
repeat.
YouTube and Google the song, and then it'll be like for 10 hours straight.
Well, unless it's classical music, I can understand. Anything outside of classical, I don't get.
So I haven't listened to it recently, but it has been on my mind a lot, especially right now. And there's this artist, Janet Devlin, and she has a song called Whiskey Lullabies, and she also sings it in Gaelic, her natural tongue. She lives in Ireland, or she's from Ireland. And she sings it in each, and I had it on a YouTube repeat. There was one day... There's been a couple times where I've just been able to... I had both side by side just on repeat for like
What
a
is
few
it called?
hours. Whiskey Lullabies.
It's a cool name.
Yeah, and I would just listen to it on repeat over and over and over. Something about the tone, the way it grows in power as the song goes along. It just, every time it plays, it's just powerful and magical to me. And it's also... It is just like a lullaby. It also lulls me. And then... I would just definitely recommend checking both out. Listen to both versions. Very powerful. Again, Janet Devlin. Last name is Devlin.
All right, guys, that is going to wrap up this week's episode. Thank you so much for listening. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can send your emails into brewedconvos@gmail.com. That's BREWEDCONVOS@gmail.com.
And you can find us on Facebook at Brewed Podcast. Give it a like. And you can also find us on Instagram at Brewed Podcast as well, where I post stories sometimes.
You can also catch us on Twitter at Brewed Convos. Again, it's at Brewed Convos.
All right, guys. Until next time, I'm Adonis.
I'm Bryce.
And I'm Jen.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.